In 1975, there was this loveless couple in New Albany, Indiana, Larry and Marjorie. I call them Loveless because it's their family name, but yeah, they were loveless. And I doubt we even talk about them if not for what happened 17 years later. At some point, Larry got drafted for the Vietnam War and he returned a hero. But to his wife, he was no hero. She described him as a deviant who would wear her daughter's underwear. That alone is not enough to know what went on in Larry's mind. He liked sharing his wife with some of his friends from work, but somehow he got fired from a police job. You wanna guess why? He accused an African-American man of sleeping with Marjorie. After that, he became a mail carrier but quit after 3 months, not before bringing most of his mail home. So yeah, if you're living at the time and you didn't get your mails, go figure. So this family is broke. They filed for bankruptcy in 1980, and his daughters were always hungry because there wasn't enough food at home. Picture the environment. That was the condition Melinda Loveless grew in. I don't think even dysfunctional could begin to describe it. But there was a time when the Loveless got involved with a Baptist church and Larry became a preacher, then a marriage counselor. Perfect. If you're thinking about a silver lining in the cloud they got better, think again. Larry went too far with women, which saw the Loveless out of the church and back into their hellhole of a life. The Loveless finally divorced after Larry was caught spying on Melinda. Larry and Marjorie moved on with their lives, remarrying, which left Melinda on a twist, especially as Larry sent her letters only to play on her emotions. What's a bit much, a long backstory, but now you have the exact idea about Melinda's upbringing. In this episode, I'm gonna tell you about what Melinda did to this poor girl, Shanda Sharer. Shanda's parents also divorced. Her mother remarried and moved to Louisville. Then her mother divorced again, and they moved in June 1991 to New Albany, Indiana, Melinda's town. Shanda enrolled at Hazelwood Middle School. Just a small introduction. My name is Alex Faines. I'm so into true crime that I even published a book, which I left a link in the description. I wrote this book to the best that I think it's worth your time, and the whole backstory of this novel, it began from a divorce. Just as what we're doing in this video, because that's what happened to Hope Rippey's parents, except they got back 3 years later. Put that all aside, we're in March 1991 when Melinda Loveless came out to her mother saying she was dating Amanda Heavrin, but this relationship did not last. Melinda was reportedly battling depression after her parents' divorce. In the fall semester at Hazelwood, Amanda got into a fight with Shanda. They became friends while in detention and started a relationship from there that they attended a school dance together that October. I'd say their relationship was so much better than the one Amanda had with Melinda, but Shanda's parents didn't see it that way. They transferred Shanda to a different school out of concern about the impact of this relationship. Despite the transfer, Shanda appeared to still be with Amanda. And Melinda did not like that, not one bit. It was the same October she began discussing about what she was about to do to Shanda. The plan was set in motion on January 10th, 1992. That night, Melinda had some guests in her home. It was Lori Tackett, who went through a hell of her own during childhood. Lori's mother was so deeply religious that she forbade her from wearing jeans. When Lori did change into jeans at school, her mother blew up so much that social workers became involved, subjecting the family to unannounced visits. It was not the only conflict Lori had with her mother. This is when we can start talking about Hope Rippey again, and there was another girl, Toni Lawrence. These girls were friends with Lori, and you're not going to believe that Lori's mother actually went ballistic when Hope's father bought an Ouija board. Just an Ouija board, but she demanded the board be burned and the Rippey's house be exorcised. A bit too much, but we can't expect anything less. Nor can we expect that Lori wouldn't rebel. She rebelled. Rebelling against this traditionalism, Lori actually got down with occultism. She pretended to be possessed sometimes. It started out okay before she started self-harming and she got diagnosed with BPD. She dropped out of school in November 1991 and then she met Melinda Loveless. That January she brought Hope and Toni to meet Melinda and they were all up with Melinda's game to scare a 12-year-old girl. The game began with the drive to Shanda's house from where Hope and Toni would go introducing themselves as Amanda's friend. The idea was to lure Shanda out by making her believe that Amanda was waiting for her at the witch's castle It's a stone house on an isolated hill overlooking the Ohio River. Shanda got out of the house toward the car in which Melinda was hiding in the back seat under a blanket. Melinda sprang out from the back seat, lunging for Shanda as they drove toward the witch's castle. They began scaring her, saying the castle had human remains and she would be next. The poor girl begged them to take her back, but they pushed ahead for the witch's castle and at some point got lost so many times they had to ask for directions. There were no Google Maps back then. The whole point for the witch's castle was reduced into pieces that they resolved to a dark, abandoned building off a logging road in a forested area. It was here they took turns stabbing Shanda before placing her in the trunk of the car, fully convinced she was gone, except she wasn't. What happened next will shock you. Shanda kept fighting for her life. First at Laurie's home when the girls were cleaning themselves, she was still in the trunk. She hollered in pain. Then they went for a drive to a nearby town when they heard her again. They stopped the car, popped the trunk, and this time they used a tire iron. Shanda kept fighting on. She was still alive when the girls carried her to a field north of Madison, a place known to Hope. They dropped her, still alive, by the gravel road, where Hope poured gasoline, and that was it. The fact that they could have breakfast at McDonald's that morning laughing about Shanda over a sausage explains everything. But we gotta get into Melinda's mind at this point. She told Amanda about what they did, and Amanda was so horrified to see Shanda's handprints in the trunk of the car. Melinda kissed, confiding her love and pleading her not to tell anyone, and Amanda promised she wouldn't. It seemed that she put Shanda out of the picture to be with Amanda in a sick feeling that she believed to be love. Melinda, however, did not realize that when she was telling Amanda the story, two brothers already found Shanda's body and called the cops. What took place next was so sweeping. In the afternoon, Shanda's parents met and filed a missing person report in Clark County. That night, Hope and Tony went to the sheriff's office in Jefferson County with their parents. The girls were rambling about the events of the previous night. Investigations did not take long. After the body was found, the body was matched to the missing person report, and that was it. So it was not Amanda who broke the story, it was Hope and Tony. This is why we should be careful about what we do. They were all arrested: Melinda, Laurie, Hope, and Tony. They accepted plea bargains. The defense did contend with mental health issues, but it didn't save Melinda, Laurie, Hope from being sentenced to 60 years. Tony got a maximum of 20 years, and Hope managed to reduce her sentence to 35 years. It seems their apology fell on deaf ears. Justice was served, or was it? Because Tony was released after serving 9 years. Hope only did 14 years of her original sentence, and Laurie was released on January 11, 2018, exactly 26 years after Shanda's death. Melinda was released a year after that. Let me know what you think about this in the comment, but before wrapping things up, there's something you should know. The brothers who found the body originally thought it was a mannequin. Upon realizing the obvious, they called the cops. It was at 10:55 in the morning. One of the responding officers was David Cam. He was arrested and tried for the murder of his family, Kim, Brad, and Jill. So again, I'm welcoming you to subscribe because we're going to cover this case in the next episode.